Yeah, look, I think the challenge is how we exhibit. And as producer of Art Month Sydney, I guess that's an ongoing challenge, in particular when we consider contemporary art. How do you see this sort of entering into the future and sort of like as in our current climate, which is not a very easy one for an artist to sustain and continue?
Look, I think I don't think there's ever going to be a turning point where suddenly things become really easy for artists. I think it's unfortunately kind of intrinsic in the profession, as it is for actors, as it is for musicians, anyone doing creative kind of work. I mean, we're seeing in corporate culture a bit of a change in the perception of artists. Interesting kind of things happening now. Like there's a law firm in Sydney that has a poet in residence. And business is starting to I think, realise the importance of having creative people, particularly sitting on boards and things like that. That kind of creative perspective is actually a valuable perspective. Artists are very used to, artists are amazing problem solvers, creative problem solvers, and they solve problems with very limited resources. And so that kind of thinking is actually really valuable to.
Do you think that the creative sort of thought is separate to being an artist, or do you think actually that's one and the same? I guess there's been a real consideration and difference between design, architecture, and perhaps artist. How do you see that sort of working towards in the future?
I think it's just all problem solving. Like my brother's an industrial designer, and I talk to him about his kind of processes, and it's incredibly kind of technical. But so is oil painting. So is I love it. So is people making video art. There's a lot of technicality in that as well too.
Do you consider that to be artist as well, or do you?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I think it's more about your own kind of definition of yourself. I don't think my brother would call himself an artist. He would call himself a designer. But definitely the kind of processes that he goes through in his workshop, which is like akin to a studio, are very much run parallel to the kind of thought processes that an artist goes through. So it's about an initial kind of conception of an idea, and then working out strategies to try and realise that idea, and trial and error, and scrapping this and then starting again, and looking at available resources, and maybe playing with different materials. My brother has an amazing hunger for new materials and new ways, because it's like an artist's palette. It's like new colours, it's new materials, new ways of doing things, and so that kind of creative problem solving, I think, is the same. And weirdly as well too, like I mentioned, advertising, copywriting before, it's a similar kind of thing. There's a creativity there in the thought and the problem solving and thinking about the world around you.
We're speaking to Sebastian Goldspink. He is the artist on the cover of poeTart's number 8, 21st of April 2012. Finally, before I get you to perform and read your poem of choice, thinking about Sydney Art Month Sydney, which we've not long come out of. And this is your first Art Month Sydney as producer.
Yep.
In terms of kind of comparisons to other art months and other sister cities, how do you think Sydney sort of rates in the actual contemporary sort of form?
Look, I think it was an amazing month. I guess being the producer, I was fortunate to go to kind of pretty much everything and get to see the kind of the kind of scale of it. Part of my job was to go around to all the galleries ahead of Art Month, to meet everybody and check out all the different spaces. And I'm someone who goes to art galleries, but there were tons of galleries that I'd never been to. I think it was like 120 galleries. So that's the amazing kind of thing, going around and meeting those people who run spaces and run galleries, and it's just amazing kind of little worlds. And I guess the great thing about Art Month, its kind of core mission is really to encourage people to go to commercial galleries, perhaps in the same way that they might go to see the Archibald, or at at sort of public institutions, it's just sort of saying to the public that these places are kind of open and are accessible if you kind of find them out. And one really successful thing we did was the precinct night, so looking at different kind of precincts and encouraging all the galleries to stay open late and creating little walking trails for people. So that was a great way for people to go to galleries that they've never been to before, and kind of social activity, and then sort of meeting up afterwards and having a drink and kind of comparing notes with their friends. It was a really positive thing. You know, I'm pro art, so anything that anything that exposes people to art and artists and different galleries for me is a positive thing.
Just finally, from your experience from the 2012 City Art Month, looking to 2013, is there anything particularly that you would be sort of wanting to sort of put in place? Or
yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're really in a kind of the phase now, kind of analysing what worked and what didn't work from 2012, and then taking that forward to 2013. Definitely kind of expanding our vision and creating kind of more opportunities. The conversation series that we had was also really successful and great. Really kind of different speakers, and you know, I've used this example a bit, but we had a precinct night in the kind of Redfern Chippendale area, and so on that night we had Serial Space open and we had White Rabbit open. They were in the same street. And both those galleries had an amazing night with tons of people that had never been to their galleries before, and that was really like a kind of pointing towards the success that you know, a large kind of gallery like White Rabbit and an artist-run space like Serial Space, the fact that they could both sort of share audiences and have a really kind of amazing, engaged night sort of speaks to that thing. I think it's just about providing opportunities for people, and if you provide those opportunities, then you know, people are interested. And I think Sydney-siders, you know, I think traditionally painted, you know, in the past as being apathetic compared to, say, people from Melbourne. I think it was clear from the amount of numbers that we got that there is you know, a really strong audience for contemporary art. I mean, I look at the new MCA since opening, 100,000 visitors, which is incredible numbers.
well, thank you, Sebastian, for talking us through that. Let's introduce your poet and also your poem.
Yeah, so I was kind of given this challenge of finding a contemporary Australian poem and poet to read today, and Alaska, the gallery that I run is in King's Cross in Sydney, where I live and where I grew up, so a really kind of strong connection to the Cross, and yeah, you sort of mentioned before my kind of insomnia and wandering around the Cross at night, and it's weird. There is a real beauty in the kind of craziness of King's Cross at night with the neon and, you know, drunk people, and, you know, all the kind of madness that people associate with King's Cross. There is a real beauty, and also importantly for me, an amazing kind of Bohemian history and amazing kind of visual arts history of King's Cross, with places like the Yellow House and the amazing artists that have lived there, and writers as well. So the poet, I think, was Kenneth Slessor, who's very much associated with King's Cross, and the poem is William Street, which is obviously very much about King's Cross.
So we have Sebastian Goldspink here for poeTart's file number 8, 21st of April 2012, reading Kenneth Slessor's very infamous and famous William Street. Can we give him a little welcome?
The red globes of light, the liquid green, the pulsing arrows and the running fire, split on the stones, go deeper than a stream. You find this ugly, I find it lovely. Ghost trousers like the diagonal of hung men in pawn shop windows bumping knee by knee, but none inside to suffer or condemn. You find this ugly, I find it lovely. Smells rich and rasping, smoke and fat and fish, and toss the paraffin and crimp the nose, or grease that blesses onion with a hiss. You find it ugly, I find it lovely. The dips and moles with flip and shiny gaze, death at their elbows, hunger at their heels, ranging the pavements of their pasturage. You find it ugly, I find it lovely.
Well done.
And what a visual piece that is. It's been a pleasure having you here on poeTart's File number 8. Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Angela.
Well done.